Everyone wants beauty, power, and a sweet life. But sometimes the one who looks weak, the one people laugh at, may carry a destiny bigger than all of them. This is not just any story, it is a story of a blind maid who was mocked, rejected, and even thrown in prison, yet the same maid rose to become the first queen of her land. It is filled with joy and laughter at the beginning, but also tears, betrayal, and shocking twists that will make your heart race. Once upon a time, in a village called Umoa, there lived a girl named Amulai. Amulai was blind from birth. She had never seen the golden sun that painted the sky at dawn, or the silver moon that lit the night. But though her eyes were closed, her heart was wide open. She could hear the laughter of children and know their joy. She could smell the flowers by the river and know their beauty. She could feel the pain in others' voices and offer comfort. Amulai lived in a small hut at the edge of the village with her old mother. Life was not easy for them. Her mother farmed a little land, fetched water, and cooked with what they had. Amulai, though blind, swept the hut, washed plates, sang to cheer her mother, and told stories she heard from passers-by. She was known as the blind maid, poor and weak in the eyes of many, yet strangely filled with peace. Umoa was a proud village, full of traditions, full of whispers of the gods. The center stood the palace of King Oduma, a tall and powerful man whose voice alone could make the ground tremble. His son, Prince Obidi, was handsome, tall, and strong, with eyes that carried pride. Everyone believed he would be the next king. By his side was Chinaza, the daughter of the village elder. Chinaza was beautiful, sharp-tongued, and ambitious. She wanted to be queen, and everyone expected her to marry Prince Obidi. But everything changed on the day of the great choosing. Once every 7 years, the chief priest of Umoa would step out, wearing his long white robe, his staff in hand, to declare the will of the gods. This was no small day. Drums beat, villagers gathered, and everyone's heart trembled because whatever the priest said became law. That year, the choosing was different. Priest stood before the crowd, his eyes closed as though listening to a voice no one else could hear. Then, slowly, he lifted his staff and pointed, not to Chinaza, not to the elder, not to the prince. He pointed to Amulai, the blind maid. Crowd gasped. Amulai! The blind girl! Impossible! The priest's voice thundered. The gods have chosen Amulai to serve Prince Obidi. At once, noise erupted. Chinaza's face burned with rage. The elder rose in protest. Even the king frowned, confused. But before any man could challenge, a sudden thunder roared across the sky though the sun was bright. Lightning struck a nearby tree, splitting it in half. Crowd fell silent, fear gripping their hearts. The message was clear, this choice was divine. From that day, Amulai entered the palace, not as a guest, not as a bride, but as a maid to serve Prince Obidi. Prince hated her at once. Blind girl, he sneered. How can you serve me when you cannot even see me? Amulai bowed gently, her voice soft. My prince, I may not see with my eyes, but I can serve with my hands and heart. But her words only made him laugh cruelly. To him, she was a disgrace. Each day, he mocked her. He threw things on the floor and told her to pick them. He shouted at her for walking too slowly. Sometimes, he would push her aside just to see her stumble. The other palace workers whispered. Some pitied her, some mocked her too. Only the old chief priest kept his gaze steady, watching silently as though waiting for something. One day, Prince Obidi thought of a wicked plan. He wanted to shame Amulai before everyone. He took his royal signet ring, the golden ring that bore the mark of the king, and hid it. Then he raised an alarm. My ring is missing, he cried. Search the rooms. The blind maid must have stolen it. Guards rushed, servants whispered, and fingers pointed. Amulai stood trembling, her face pale. I did not take it, she whispered. Search her, the prince commanded. They checked her clothes, her mat, her little belongings. Nothing. But still, the prince insisted. She took it. Who else could it be? She is jealous of my power. Crowd began to believe him. Some already saw Amuli as a curse, a mistake in the palace. But just as the whispers grew loud, a strange thing happened. The ring was found. Not with Amuli, but back in Obidi's own chamber, sitting on his table, shining as though it had never left. Gasps filled the air. The guards looked at one another. Some bowed their heads in shame. Obidi's face turned red with fury and confusion. He had hidden the ring himself, but now it was here, mocking him. "The gods are watching," the chief priest said slowly, his eyes on Obidi. From that day, Obidi burned with anger, but Chinaza burned with hatred. She watched Amuli quietly, her teeth clenched. To her, Amuli was stealing everything, her chance, her glory, her future. "She must be destroyed," Chinaza whispered to her father one night. "If she remains, the throne will never be ours." Her father, the elder, nodded. "We will find a way." One hot afternoon, when the palace was quiet, Chinaza walked into the hall of the king's throne. She saw Amuli sweeping with her stick, humming softly. Chinaza's lips curved in a wicked smile. She stepped behind Amuli and pushed her hard. Amuli stumbled, fell forward, and landed on the king's throne. Once, Chinaza screamed, "Guards! Guards! Look! The blind maid has defiled the throne." Guards stormed in, their eyes wide with shock. In Umoa, to touch the king's throne without permission was a capital crime, punishable by death. Amuli's hand shook. She tried to rise, her lips trembling. "I did not mean to, I fell." But Chinaza's voice rose above hers, sharp as a blade. "She is guilty. She has cursed the throne. Arrest her." The guards seized Amuli, her broom falling to the floor. Her mother's voice cried in the distance, but it was too late. The blind maid, chosen by the gods, was dragged away in chains. Prison of Umoa was a dark place. Its walls were damp, its floor cold, and its air heavy with despair. Few who entered ever came out alive, and those who did came out broken. There, on the hard ground, sat Amuli. Her wrists bore the marks of the chains, her face pale, her hair tangled. The blind maid who once sang softly in her mother's hut was now a prisoner, accused of the worst crime, defiling the king's throne. She wept in silence at first, her tears falling on the dusty floor. Her mother was outside the palace walls, wailing, but her cries could not reach her daughter. That night, when sleep finally took her, Amuli dreamed. She saw a throne brighter than gold. She saw herself seated on it, her blind eyes opening, filled with light. A voice whispered, "You are not forgotten. You are chosen. The stone the builders rejected will be the cornerstone." Amuli woke with a start. She trembled, her heart racing. Was it just a dream? Or was it a sign from the gods? Meanwhile, in another part of Umoa, Chinaza's father, the elder, was not sleeping. His daughter's words had burned in his heart. Amuli must be destroyed. So he journeyed into the dark forest, a place villagers feared. There, under twisted trees, he met a strange figure, a medicine man whose face was painted with ash, whose eyes glowed like fireflies. "I need a charm," the elder whispered. "A charm to end the life of the blind maid." The medicine man grinned, his teeth yellow. He mixed powders, chanted incantations, and handed the elder a black pot filled with strange liquid. "Pour this near the throne," he said. "The one who stands against you will fall." The elder nodded, clutching the pot tightly. He thought victory was close. But the gods had other plans. The next morning, as King Oduma sat on his throne, the elder secretly poured the charm at the palace steps. But before Amuli could even be brought out, something unexpected happened. King groaned suddenly, clutching his chest. His body shook, his crown slipped from his head, and he collapsed. Gasps filled the hall. "The king! The king!" voices screamed. He was carried inside, healers rushed, herbs were prepared, but it was useless. By evening, King Oduma was dead. The village wailed. Drums of mourning beat. Dust rose as women rolled on the ground. But in the shadows, the elder and his daughter hid their smiles. For them, this was the perfect chance. With the king gone, Prince Obidi would be crowned swiftly and Chinaza would be his queen. Inside the palace, Obidi's chest swelled. Alas, the throne was near. He looked at his reflection in a polished bronze mirror and whispered, "I will be king. Umoa will bow to me." Chinaza stood by his side, her eyes shining with hunger. "And I will be queen," she added. But the chief priest, who had been silent since the king's death, watched them both with heavy eyes. The next day, the palace prepared for coronation. Drummers gathered, dancers painted their faces, the royal crown was placed on a red cloth. Crowds filled the palace yard, eager to see Obidi crowned. But whispers filled the air too. Some said the gods were angry. Some remembered the thunder when Amulai was chosen. Some wondered why the king had died so suddenly. But no one dared speak openly. Obidi walked forward proudly, dressed in gold and red, his steps heavy with power. Chinaza followed, her smile wide. The elder stood close, his eyes gleaming. The chief priest lifted the crown and spoke. "Today we crown the next ruler of Umoa. May the gods bear witness." He placed the crown on Obidi's head. First silence. Then, suddenly, crown shook violently, burned with light as though fire had entered it. Obidi screamed, clutching his head. Sparks flew. Crown leapt off his head and rolled across the floor. Crowd gasped in terror. Some fell to the ground, others ran back. "The gods reject him," a voice cried. Obidi staggered, his eyes wide with fear and pain. Chinaza froze, her smile fading. The elder's mouth went dry. The chief priest picked up the crown, his face grave. "The gods will choose," he said slowly, "and their choice cannot be denied." Palace was silent after the crown rejected Prince Obidi. Fear hung in the air like smoke. People whispered, "What does this mean? Who then shall be king?" Obidi, humiliated, stared at the ground. His pride was gone, replaced by shame. Chinaza's face turned pale. Her father's hand shook. The gods had spoken, and their plan was crumbling. The chief priest stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly in the sunlight. His voice was firm. "The crown cannot be forced. It will rest only on the one chosen by the gods." He lifted the crown again and began the rite. First, he placed it on Chinaza's head. For a moment it rested still, and Chinaza's lips curved into a triumphant smile. But then, lightning cracked the sky. Crown burned hot, and Chinaza screamed. The lightning struck her and her father where they stood. They fell to the ground, shaking, their guilt exposed before all. Crowd gasped in terror. "They were plotting against the gods," the people cried. That very moment, far away in the dark cell, Amulai's chains broke with a loud snap. Prison doors swung open on their own. The guards fled, terrified, leaving the blind maid standing free. Confused but guided by an unseen hand, Amulai walked slowly toward the palace. People made way, staring as she entered the hall barefoot, her hair loose, her eyes white and blind. Gasps filled the air. "Amulai!" voices cried. "The blind maid has returned." Chief priest smiled faintly. He took the crown in his hands and walked toward her. "Daughter of the gods," he said softly, "come forward." Amulai trembled. "But I am blind. I am nothing. Why would the gods choose me?" Priest placed the crown on her head. At once, a great light filled the hall. Amulai gasped as her blind eyes opened for the first time. She blinked, tears rolling down her cheeks. She could see the faces of the people, the shining crown, the world she had never known. Crowd fell to their knees. "The gods have chosen. Long live Queen Amulai." Then the priest revealed the secret. Amulai is not only chosen by the gods, she is also the blood of the king. She is the firstborn, the twin of Obidi, hidden at birth because of a prophecy. The prophecy has now been fulfilled, for the king tried to fight destiny, and in doing so brought his own end. People wept, some in sorrow, some in awe. Biddy bowed low before Amuli, tears in his eyes. Sister, forgive me. I mocked you. I hated you. I was blind, though my eyes could see. Amuli touched his shoulder gently. I forgive you, O Biddy. Let the past be buried. Together we will bring peace to Umoa. And so Amuli was crowned as the first queen of Umoa. Her reign was marked by justice, wisdom, and kindness. She cared for the poor, defended the weak, and reminded all that no one should be looked down upon. Never mock or despise anyone because of their weakness. Do not let pride or jealousy control your heart. Destiny cannot be stopped by lies, hatred, or evil plans. The stone that everyone rejects may become the most important stone of all. If you have not subscribed to my channel, you might not hear my voice again, but if you are, then you are growing every day. Check my page for more interesting stories. Thanks for watching.